Hello, and welcome to the Sleepy Survival Stories channel. Maybe today felt like a climb of its own. Messages, worries, decisions, all stacked like invisible steps beneath your feet. But now the day is fading, like sunlight slipping behind a distant ridge, and you've finally reached a quieter place. This room, this bed, this gentle moment of pause. Feel the softness beneath you. Notice how your body is already a little heavier, already beginning to let go. The air around you is calmer now, like the stillness that settles over a high camp when evening comes. Somewhere in the dark, imagine a small lantern glowing inside a tent, its light warm against the endless white of a Himalayan night. Tonight, we will walk together into that high, frozen world, back to a time when there were no fixed ropes on Everest, no long lines of climbers, no crowds on the summit ridge, only a mountain rising alone above all others, and a handful of souls who dared to approach it for the very first time. Breathe in slowly, and then breathe out, even slower. With each breath out, let the noise of the day fall away, like loose snow sliding gently down a slope, harmless and soft. Let the questions that chased you begin to quiet. They can rest on the valley floor for now. We will follow the 1922 expedition from a distance, like watching lanterns move along a dark glacier. We'll trace their steps from jungles and villages to silent ice, from curiosity to courage, from careful reconnaissance to the thin, shimmering edge of what was possible then. There will be maps and monasteries, caravans and cold camps, new ideas about oxygen, and the solemn hush of risk accepted. But you are not here to be tested. You are here to be comforted. Let Everest be, for this night, a mirror for the mountains inside you. The challenges you've faced, the paths you've walked, the quiet resilience you often forget you carry. You do not have to conquer any summit in these hours. You do not have to prove anything to anyone. As you breathe in, feel a cool, clean air filling your chest. As you breathe out, imagine exhaling a small cloud into the night, just as climbers do when they stand beneath the stars. Tonight, we settle over the high world, over glaciers that shine like pale rivers, over wind-carved ridges and ancient snow. You are safe down here, wrapped in blankets instead of down suits, held by stillness instead of ropes. You are here to rest, to breathe, and to be cradled inside a story larger than yourself. Chapter 1. Before Everest became a line on people's bucket lists, it was a whisper on the wind and a shape in the clouds. Long before the word Everest was ever spoken, the mountain already had older, gentler names. In Tibet it was Chomolungma, goddess mother of the mountains. In Nepal, Sagarmatha, the forehead that touches the sky. From far-off survey stations in India, it was simply Peak Fifthulv, a set of distant angles on a notebook page. No crowds, no fame, no photographs. Just a white summit watched by yaks, prayer flags, and thin, clear air. In those days, to dream of that summit was to dream of approaching something holy. Chapter 2. Strangely, the highest mountain on Earth hid in plain sight. From the Indian plains, only its very tip could be seen, shy behind nearer ridges. Neighbouring giants, like Kanchenjunga, looked more impressive to the naked eye. For years, people thought those other peaks must be taller. Only precise measurements, triangles of mathematics drawn across vast distances, revealed the truth. Yet even when the numbers were confirmed, Everest remained unreachable. It rose along a tense frontier between Tibet and Nepal, two lands closed to foreign travellers. The world could say, that is the highest. but no one from outside could walk up and lay a hand upon its icy sides. Chapter 3. In 1907, a spark flickered in the minds of climbers in Europe. The Alpine Club, turning 50, wondered how to honour its golden anniversary. Why not look beyond the Alps, beyond even the great ranges of Europe and America, to the highest summit of all? The idea of climbing Everest began to take shape, not as a tourist venture but as a deep, audacious question. Yet history had its own storms. The First World War broke over the continents, and for years the world's attention sank into mud and grief. The dream of reaching Everest's slopes was folded like a fragile map and tucked away, waiting for quieter skies. Chapter 4. After the guns fell silent, diplomacy began its slow, careful climb. British envoys, officials and lamas met in rooms scented with butter lamps and incense, speaking of borders and permissions, of caravans and routes. In 1920, after patient requests, the Dalai Lama agreed to let an expedition approach Everest from the Tibetan side. A door had opened in a very high wall. In January 1921, a committee formed in London. They did not vow to conquer the peak the first year. Instead, they planned a season of listening to the mountain, a reconnaissance, a humble first walk along its feet to learn how the goddess might be approached. Chapter 5. They gathered what they could from a world still healing. £10,000 to fund the journey, a fortune at the time. From that came woolen clothing, tents, boots, ice axes, ropes, stoves, and food rations carefully measured for months away from home. Maps were spread across tables like shallow oceans of paper, and thin red lines traced the intended approach, yet the true path was not ink but footsteps. In April 1921, the expedition sailed from England toward India. Behind them, cities. Ahead, jungles and ridges and sky. Somewhere invisible, far beyond the horizon, Everest waited like a silent altar of rock and snow. Chapter 6. By early May they arrived in Darjeeling, where the air felt thinner and prayer flags snapped in mountain winds. There they hired Sherpas, bhutias, porters and soldiers, and a great train of mules. Names were exchanged, loads balanced, contracts agreed upon. Soon the narrow streets were filled with movement, coils of rope, boxes of food, stacks of tents, all resting briefly on backs and animal saddles. It was no longer just an English expedition. It was a woven caravan of many peoples and languages. Above them, unseen, the high peaks gleamed. Below, boots and hooves began to trace a path that would change mountain history. Chapter 7. The journey toward Everest started in heat. They walked through thick green jungles where each breath felt heavy and sweet, and cicadas pulsed like distant drums. Day by day, the trail climbed. Trees shifted to pines, then to low shrubs, then to bare, rocky slopes where the wind had teeth. They crossed passes as high as the tallest peaks in distant lands, and even these were just stepping stones in the Himalaya. Some bodies faltered under the thinning air. The team doctor, a strong climber, died of heart failure. Another senior member fell ill and had to turn back. Before Everest was even in sight, the mountain's invisible presence was already being felt. Chapter 8. As monsoon days crept nearer, they divided their efforts to move faster. One group pushed north toward the Rongbuk Glacier, the vast frozen river that flows from Everest's northern side. At around 7,500 feet, they gazed up at the North Col, a saddle of ice and snow that could lead toward the summit ridge. It looked severe and distant, guarded by hanging seracs and hidden crevasses. Yet it also looked possible. like a narrow, icy bridge between the known world and the unknown. In that cold amphitheatre of rock and wind, they saw not just danger, but a first hint of a route to the top of the world. Chapter 9. Another party moved east, into the quiet Kata and Kama valleys. There, the air grew clearer and the horizon more enormous. Makalu, Lhotse and Everest rose around them, three of the world's highest summits forming a mighty crown of ice. They crossed passes near 18,000 feet, where no forest softened the land, only rock, snow and sky. Surrounded by that vastness, the surveyors took readings and sketched, turning ridges and glaciers into careful lines on their notebooks. Each line was an act of reverent attention, a way of saying, "We see you, we are learning your shape." In the evenings, as the summits blushed with last light, the maps lay in their tents like folded prayers. Chapter 10. By late August, they stood on Lagbala at about 22,000 feet, looking out over a maze of ice and stone. There, they discovered something surprising, a hidden passage that seemed to connect toward the North Pole from a direction they had once thought blocked. The mountain, studied from many angles, had revealed a new doorway. They did not force it then. Instead, they turned back, descending from these high places to the relative softness of lower air. They brought with them maps, knowledge, and quiet amazement. The 1921 expedition ended without a summit attempt, but with something just as precious, a clear sense of how, one day, Everest might be climbed. Let your breath follow the slow rhythm of this journey, in and gently out. We have not yet seen climbers on the summit ridges nor tents at impossible heights. We are still in the patient season of learning, where people walk and listen, map and observe. Notice how even great feats begin with reconnaissance, with humility, with questions rather than answers. Feel your own body softening, like snow settling after wind. The details of dates and names can blur. You can let them. What remains is a feeling. Human beings, small and determined, moving through a landscape so immense it quiets the mind. As you breathe out, imagine exhaling a little tension, letting it drift down the valleys like mist. You are safe, here at your own base camp of blankets and pillows, watching these early steps from a warm distance. Chapter 11. From those maps and memories, a decision slowly formed. It was time to try. In 1922, the plan changed from learn the mountain to reach for its top. The approach would be the same long arc as before, through Sikkim into Tibet, then across the plateau toward Everest's northern side. On March 26th, a party set out once again, carrying not just gear and food, but the fresh experience of the previous year. 13 British climbers and around 160 men in total, including Tibetan and Nepalese porters, set their faces toward the high white pyramid. Somewhere ahead awaited the Rongbuk Monastery, the glaciers, and the fierce quiet of the North Pole. Chapter 12. They walked for weeks across the Tibetan plateau, under a wide, wind-combed sky. At last, the dark walls and white roofs of Rongbuk Monastery appeared, perched at around 1,600 feet with Everest rising behind it like a frozen wave. Monks in maroon robes chanted and turned prayer wheels, their devotion spiraling upward like incense smoke. The climbers rested there, receiving blessings in a language of gestures and smiles as much as words. Then they moved on, up the valley to where the ice truly began. On May 1st, they established base camp at the foot of the Rongbuk Glacier. Tents blossomed among rocks, boxes, ropes, cooking pots, and hope lay scattered in the cold sun, forming the first small village of their great attempt. Chapter 13. From base camp, the work of lifting a dream up the mountain began. The first loads went toward a place they simply called Camp 1. Porters and climbers moved along the rocky glacier, breathing steadily, placing each foot with care. To save precious tents, they built low stone walls, shelters shaped by their own tired hands. Every box of food, every coil of rope had to be carried upward by human backs and patient animals. Camp by camp, the expedition stretched itself like a slow, living ladder up the valley. Above, the icefalls and ridges waited, silent and untouched, like pages of a book no one had yet dared to read. Chapter 14. Camp 1 rose at about 5,400 metres, where the air already felt thin and sharp. From there they pushed higher to Camp 2, near 6,000 metres, and then to an advanced base, Camp 3, at around 6,400 metres. Between these camps, a rhythm formed. Porters climbed with heavy loads, then descended light. Climbers checked ropes, stoves and sleeping bags. Cooks boiled water that never quite became truly hot, the low pressure stealing some of the warmth. Each camp had its own small heartbeat, a tent glowing at dusk, someone humming softly, a pot gently bubbling. In that barren world, these tiny human sounds were like little fires against the vast cold. Chapter 15. Beyond Camp 2, the glacier changed its voice. It became more broken, crevassed, uncertain underfoot. Seracs loomed like frozen waves, and the path wound between deep blue shadows. The porters, though strong and used to mountains, were less familiar with such hidden dangers, so the climbers moved carefully, cutting steps where needed, testing bridges of snow. They left some men at each camp as guardians, messengers and cooks, forming a chain of care that stretched down the mountain. Above them, the North Col lay like a white ramp, steep and aloof. To reach it would mean stepping fully into the realm of high-altitude mystery. Chapter 16. While loads were carried and camps prepared, another quiet revolution was unfolding in a tent, the testing of bottled oxygen. Alexander Kellis, who had died during the earlier reconnaissance, had first suggested this strange idea. Now, steel cylinders, masks and hoses lay on the snow like pieces of an unfamiliar instrument. Some climbers doubted it. Was this still pure climbing? Would the benefit be worth the wait? Yet, at these heights, every breath was thin and costly. To breathe a little richer air might mean the difference between collapse and continuation. In the stillness of camp, they adjusted valves, checked gauges, and wondered if this gentle, invisible support might help them touch the sky. Chapter 17. The oxygen sets were heavy, about 15 kilograms for frame and bottles together. Worn on the back, the cylinders fed a mask that covered nose and mouth, offering a small, steady trickle of hope. Each bottle gave roughly 2 hours of enriched breathing. 4 bottles meant perhaps 8 hours of help. In 1922, this felt like stepping into the future. Some called it artificial. Yet the same people wore woven clothing, slept under canvas, ate food carried from far places. In that sense, everything about the expedition was a blend of human frailty and human ingenuity. On Everest, where air thinned into sky, this new tool might allow hearts to beat a little easier. Chapter 18. As May moved on, the mountain's other season approached, the monsoon. Far to the south, enormous clouds gathered, preparing to pour their burden over the Himalaya. The climbers watched distant horizons, seeing veils of moisture building around Makalu and other peaks. They knew they had only a narrow window, between the brutal cold of winter and the deep snows of summer. In that brief pause, the air could be just gentle enough to allow a serious attempt. Time itself felt like another slope to climb, each day a step. They could not rush, yet they dared not linger. The mountain asked for patience and decisiveness in the same breath. Chapter 19. At last, the first real attempt was planned, without oxygen, using only human lungs and determination. On May 19th, 4 British climbers and 9 porters left Camp 3 for the North Col. The day began bright and calm, the snow firm underfoot. They climbed to a sheltered spot at around 25,000 feet, cutting steps in ice so hard that every swing of the axe seemed to steal a little more strength. That night they slept higher than any humans had ever slept. The previous altitude record lay below them. In their excitement, they scarcely felt how cold had already crept into fingers, toes, and ears, whispering unseen warnings through the fabric of their clothes. Chapter 20. Morning came with thin light and troubling signs. One climber was too sick to continue. At these heights, recovery does not unfold easily. The others understood at once, without judgment or surprise. 3 men moved on, stepping into freshly fallen snow that covered their tracks and concealed uneven rock. The slope grew awkward. Slabs tilted at uneasy angles, dusted with ice. Balancing at such altitude felt like moving in a dream, where every motion is slower and heavier. They reached about 26,800 feet, still far below the summit. Looking up at the remaining distance and down at the long descent awaiting them, they knew the truth. Another step upward might mean never stepping down again. As you breathe, let this moment be a gentle pause on the ridge. Feel how these early climbers, strong and hopeful, still had to bow before their own limits. There is quiet wisdom in turning back, in listening to what the body and the mountain softly say. You too do not have to push past exhaustion tonight. Let your shoulders loosen a little, let your jaw relax. Imagine yourself in a safe tent, anchored firmly on level ground, listening to the wind outside while you lie warm within. The failures of the day, the things not finished, can stay outside for now, like distant gusts that cannot reach your sleeping bag. Breathe in gently, and breathe out even more slowly. You're not falling behind. You're simply resting at your own camp, letting strength quietly return. Chapter 21. They turned back with daylight fading, moving down through snow that hid every stone and crack. At that height, even descending was an act of will. Each step had to be chosen, every muscle coaxed into motion. On the way down, one climber slipped, dragging 2 others with him. For a breathless moment, they slid together toward empty space. At the last instant, the 4th man dug his ice axe deep, the shaft biting into snow and ice. Their fall slowed, then stopped. Heartbeats pounded in aching chests, loud in the thin air. They said little. At such heights, gratitude is often quiet, a shared, trembling awareness of how narrowly life can be held. Chapter 22. Darkness came as they stumbled into Camp 3. There was no welcoming feast, no hot stew waiting. Fuel was missing, cooking pots misplaced in the confusion. Hungry and exhausted, they rummaged through crates and bags with numb fingers until they found jam, frozen condensed milk, and clean snow. Mixing these together gave them something sweet and cold to swallow, but it sat uneasily in stomachs already strained by altitude. Still, it was enough to keep them moving. Wrapped in their bags, they shivered and tried to sleep. Rest came in broken fragments, like torn clouds crossing a moonlit summit, but even fragments were better than nothing. Chapter 23. At dawn they rose again, driven by the simple need for better food and thicker air. As they descended toward lower camps, they met 2 fellow climbers coming up, carrying the new oxygen sets. The exhausted men and the fresh climbers greeted one another with smiles that said more than words. "We tried. It was close. Be careful." Then they parted ways. The first party continued downward to warmth and recovery. The second party moved upward to test a new idea. What would it feel like to climb the North Pole with enriched air in their lungs? Behind them, the trace of the first attempt faded gently beneath fresh snow. Chapter 24. On May 22nd, 1922, the test unfolded quietly, but changed everything. Two climbers, breathing from their steel bottles, went from Camp 3 to the North Pole and back in about 3 hours and 50 minutes. At such altitude, this speed was remarkable. More remarkable still was how they felt. Not invincible, but stronger, clearer, less crushed by the thinness of the sky. The oxygen did not remove the mountain's challenge, but it softened the sharpest edge. For the first time, it became truly clear that this gentle, unseen support could open doors that human lungs alone struggled to pass through. The future of high-altitude climbing shifted with each measured, assisted breath. Chapter 25. With this quiet success, the second major attempt took shape. On May 24th, 4 European climbers and 12 porters climbed from Camp 3 to the North Pole, carrying tents, food, and oxygen cylinders. They slept there at about 23,000 feet, then planned to move higher still. The porters were to carry loads up toward 26,000 feet, leave them, and return. The climbers, breathing from bottles, would try to push their camp as high as possible. The route rose over snow and rock, under a sky that felt very close. With each 100 meters gained, the world beneath grew smaller and more distant, like a memory slowly being left in the valleys of yesterday. Chapter 26. High on the mountain, they chose a place for their camp on a narrow ledge above a steep drop. It was not comfortable, but in that stark landscape, any flatness was a gift. The porters helped pitch tents, stacked loads, and then began their careful descent, their voices drifting away on the wind. The climbers melted snow for water, cooked what little they had, and watched the weather. For a while, things seemed stable. They spoke quietly of their chances, of what it would mean to stand on the summit. Then, as night deepened, the wind woke. It rose from a murmur to a roar, rattling the thin walls of fabric between them and the void. Chapter 27. All night, they lay inside a tent that shook and snapped like a sail in a storm. Snow and spindrift hammered the canvas. Sometimes the whole structure lifted and slammed back down, as if the wind were trying to peel it from the ledge. Conversation became nearly impossible over the thunder of fabric. Cold crept in through every seam. In that strange suspended darkness, they could do little but brace the poles, hold the edges, and pray the pegs would hold. Hours passed like long, uneven breaths. When dawn finally touched the sky, the storm's snow had eased, but the wind still shouted. There would be no summit that day, only survival. Chapter 28. Unable to climb higher, they stayed put, weary and hungry. It was then that someone suggested using the oxygen while resting. Until that moment, the precious gas had been saved strictly for the upward push, like a secret kept for the final steps. Now they wondered, what if a little relief now gave them strength later? They opened the valves gently and breathed. The change was almost immediate. Faces brightened, minds felt less clouded, fingers tingled as warmth crept back. That afternoon and night, they arranged a slow trickle of oxygen through their masks as they lay in their bags. For the first time in days, their sleep felt like true rest, not just a long, shivering wait. Chapter 29. Morning found them clearer, but their supplies were thin. They had not brought food for an extra storm day, and hunger now sat beside them in the tent. Still they rose, pulled on frozen boots, and set out shouldering heavy loads. The mountain was quiet again, its violence tucked away as if it had never shouted at all. At around 26,500 feet, one of the climbers faltered. His strength, worn down by days of wind and cold, simply faded. They removed his oxygen and sent him back toward the tent, alone but on a clear, familiar route. The remaining three continued upward, each step a negotiation between hope, fatigue, and the thin blessing of bottled air. Chapter 30. They traversed out of the wind onto the sheltering shoulder of the north face. From there, the world fell away on every side. They climbed over blocks of rock and patches of snow, their movements deliberate but slowed. At about 27,300 feet they stopped. Above them stretched nearly 2,000 more vertical feet to the summit. Below them lay hours of descending through dangerous terrain. The air was so thin that every sentence had to be rationed, but the conclusion was clear. To press on would risk never returning. Standing higher than almost every point on Earth, they chose life over glory. Then they turned their backs to the top and began the long, careful journey down. Let your breath soften again, like wind easing after a storm. We have watched these climbers reach astonishing heights, only to be turned back by hunger, wind, and the quiet wisdom of knowing when enough is enough. There is a tenderness in that choice, to value return, to honour limits, to accept that some summits are not for this day. Feel your own body resting now, not striving. Notice how the bed holds you, the way a safe ledge holds a tent. You do not have to keep climbing through your thoughts. You do not have to push yourself higher and higher in this moment. Let your mind descend gently, step by step, into a softer place. Allow your worries to stay up on the ridge for a while, distant and small, as you come down into a valley of calm. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, imagine all that pressure leaving you like snow, sliding quietly off a roof, harmless and slow. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to turn back from the edge tonight and simply be. Chapter 31. From that high point on the north face, the three oxygen-using climbers descended into weariness and pain. By the time they reached lower camps, their boots hid frostbite, their faces were wind-burned, and one of them could barely walk. Yet down at base camp, thicker air and hot food waited like simple miracles. They lay in sleeping bags, drinking tea and broth, listening to the muted sounds of stoves and murmured conversations around them. The summit was still untouched, but they had gone higher than any humans before. As their bodies slowly began to mend, a question returned to the circle of their campfires. Should they try once more before the monsoon closed the door? Chapter 32. Everest herself seemed to answer with veils of cloud. Each morning the peak appeared for a short while, cold and clear against the sky. By mid-morning, mist climbed up her slopes, swallowing ridges and cornices until only a vague whiteness remained. The monsoon was approaching, but a little late that year, lingering just beyond the horizon. The climbers watched carefully. They knew that if they moved fast, there might be one more chance. It would not be a grand, fully prepared push, but a final, humble effort with whatever strength remained. In the cold glow of base camp evenings, they chose to go as gently and carefully as they could. Chapter 33. On June 3rd, they left base camp again, following footsteps already half erased by wind. Their bodies were tired from weeks of effort, but the rhythm of the route was familiar now, rock, snow, tents, and the distant white curve of the North Col. That night, in Camp 1, heavy snowfall whispered against canvas. Every flake added weight to the slopes around them, invisible in the darkness. Inside the tents, breath steamed and stoves hissed softly. Outside, the mountain adjusted its balance, laying down a fresh layer of quiet, unsettled snow. The climbers slept in fits and starts, unaware of the exact shape of what the morning would bring, but aware that time was very short. Chapter 34. By June 5th, they reached Camp 3 and found it half buried. Tents sagged under snowdrifts. Boxes and ropes lay hidden beneath a soft white shroud. For a time, the mountain looked almost gentle in the sunshine, smooth and rounded, but they knew that this softness could conceal danger. They dug out old camps, shook snow from canvas, dried what they could in thin, cold light. Every action cost effort. Even small movements felt heavier in the thin air. Still, they rebuilt their little outpost at the edge of the high world, setting stoves to work, filling bottles, preparing to go once more toward the North Col, where their route climbed into mystery. Chapter 35. On June 7th at 8 in the morning, they set out from Camp 3 toward the shelf leading to the North Col. Snow reached their knees, and each step sank with a quiet sigh. To help the porters, they let the front man walk unburdened, stamping out a path with his own weight. Behind him, climbers and porters followed in single file, like beads on a white thread. No wind disturbed them. The day felt strangely calm, yet this calmness made the fresh snow feel more ambiguous. Underneath, layers might be waiting, one resting lightly on another, not yet tested by sun or storm. The climbers watched the slope ahead with careful, measuring eyes. Chapter 36. They knew the most dangerous part would be the steeper section of the shelf. There, the slope tilted, and the snow clung more tenuously to the mountain's flank. Before committing everyone to it, they decided to test. One by one, they cut small traverses, stamped and jumped, trying to shake the snow loose on purpose. Each time it held. On that steepest, iciest section, no slab released. It was a comforting sign, a quiet reassurance that the pack could pass. If this angle remained stable under such deliberate pressure, surely the gentler slopes would be safe. Calmly, the line of climbers and porters moved on, breathing in rhythm, following the path their leader broke. Chapter 37. As they gained height, the angle eased and the snow remained deep, soft to the knees. The air was still. No gusts, no obvious warning. The mountain, for a brief time, felt almost tender, a white field under a quiet sky. Their world shrank to the sound of footsteps and breathing, to the faint crunch of snow compressing under boots. Some looked upward at the North Col, so close in appearance, so far in effort. Others looked only at the heels in front of them, one careful step at a time. In that small procession there was little conversation. Each man carried his own thoughts, his own hopes, and his own measure of fatigue. Chapter 38. Then the silence changed. A soft, muffled boom sounded beneath and ahead of them, like a drum struck under blankets. Those who knew mountains recognized the sound, the gentle, dreadful sigh of a settling slab. The snow in front of them cracked and began to glide. There was no sudden violence, only the strange sensation of the ground itself starting to move. They rose instinctively, trying to stay above the surface as the white layer loosened and flowed. Some described it later like riding a slow, soft wave. For a few moments there was almost no fear, only surprise and a sense of being carried somewhere they had not chosen to go. Chapter 39. As the moving snow gathered speed, some men slipped beneath the surface, swimming with their arms and legs to keep pockets of air around their faces. Others remained near the top, bobbing and tumbling. When the avalanche stopped, a few climbers and porters found themselves half buried, able to stand and look around. A small group had come to rest on a flatter area, just above a hidden drop. They called out names, counting, trying to assemble the line that moments before had been unbroken. Too many voices did not answer. Snow lay heaped and disturbed, hiding shapes and stories beneath its pale, quiet cover. Chapter 40. Moving carefully, they discovered the edge of a 50-foot cliff. Beyond it, the avalanche had spilled into a crevasse below, filling the crack with broken snow. Those who had been further back on the rope line had been swept over that edge. The survivors climbed down and began to dig with hands, shovels, anything they had. They pulled out some men alive, breathless and shaken. Others they found still. Their journeys ended in the white silence. 7 porters, who had carried loads and hope, were gone. On that slope, plans for a summit stopped. The expedition, so full of striving, bent instead into mourning. They turned back, carrying the weight of loss down the mountain. The days of that attempt ended beneath the cairn of stones at Camp 3, built to honour the men who did not return from the avalanche. As you breathe now, do it gently, with a sense of reverence, in and slowly out. These porters were not famous, yet without them, no expedition could have moved a single crate. Their work was often quiet, their names less recorded, but their courage shone as clearly as any summit. Let your heart soften for a moment toward all whose efforts in your own life go unseen. The helpers, the carriers, the ones who make your path possible in ways you barely notice. Feel the steady support beneath you, mattress, pillow, earth. You are held just as these climbers were held by ropes, by companions, by the strength of others. With each exhale, let sorrow and gratitude mingle gently, like prayer flags moving in a light wind. You do not have to fix the past or carry every story. You're simply invited to remember, to breathe, and to rest under a sky that still watches kindly over every mountain and every sleeping soul. Chapter 41. At Camp 3, they gathered stones and built a cairn for the 7 porters who had died beneath the snow. There were no marble markers, no carved names, only rocks stacked by hands that trembled with grief and fatigue. In the thin air, prayers were simple and quiet. Some bowed their heads, some turned prayer wheels, some simply stood and watched the flags flutter. The decision settled over them. The expedition was over. No one needed to say it aloud. The mountain had drawn a clear line. Instead of summit photos, they would carry home stories of courage and loss, of how the first true attempt on Everest ended not in victory, but in remembrance. Chapter 42. Later, when they tried to understand what had happened, the avalanche still puzzled them. How could a gentle-looking slope release such deadly force, especially after tests on steeper ground had shown nothing? They realized that snow is like memory, layered, fragile, holding hidden weaknesses deep within. The steeper section had been anchored, hard and icy, while the softer, deceptive slope above concealed a tender fault. It was a lesson written in white across the mountainside. Danger doesn't always announce itself where you expect. Even the calmest surfaces can hold unseen fractures. That day reminded them, and reminds us, how little we truly command and how much we're invited to walk humbly. Chapter 43. The bodies of the porters were left where they fell, wrapped in the cold embrace of the high mountain. This was not neglect, but a recognition of the truth. To carry them down would risk more lives, and the slope that had broken loose once might break loose again. So the Himalaya became their resting place, a vast icy cathedral where stone and snow keep their vigil. For those who returned, every future view of Everest would carry their faces. The mountain was no longer just a challenge, it had become a graveyard, a reminder that every great dream is balanced on the quiet, sacred cost of human lives freely given. Chapter 44. When the 1922 expedition finally turned fully toward home, they carried more than fatigue. They had pushed human presence to nearly 8,300 meters, higher than any person had ever stood. They had made the first serious attempt on any 8,000-meter peak, at a time when such heights were almost unimaginable. Without fixed routes, weather forecasts, or modern insulation, they had ventured into air so thin it seemed barely part of the Earth. They did not reach the summit, but distance is not the only measure of a journey. The line between possible and impossible had shifted upward, and their footsteps traced the first bold strokes on the blank canvas of the world's highest mountain. Chapter 45. Behind those steps lay another, quieter achievement. During the reconnaissance and attempts, surveyors had mapped around 31,000 square kilometers of wild terrain, turning chaos into carefully drawn contours. From these maps, future expeditions would find their way, where glaciers lay, where ridges rose, where passes threaded through walls of rock. Logistics had been tested too. How to feed men in such emptiness, how to move hundreds of loads across deserts of stone and ice. What began as a dream became a complex living web of effort. Each porter, each animal, each penciled line on paper became part of a single unfolding prayer, that humans might walk safely where sky and earth meet. Chapter 46. Compared with today, their equipment was almost austere. Their clothing was wool and cloth rather than modern synthetics. Tents were sturdy but not as windproof, stoves less efficient, goggles and boots more primitive. Yet these men went high into the death zone, trusting layers of fabric and their own endurance. There were no weather satellites, no radio forecasts to warn them, only the look of the sky and the feel of the wind. In that simplicity lies a certain purity, not of perfection, but of vulnerability. They were acutely aware that they were small and the mountain was vast. That awareness, strangely, can be a kind of peace. Chapter 47. The experiments with bottled oxygen would ripple far into the future. What began as a controversial idea, some calling it unfair or unnatural, proved to be a gentle ally. Oxygen did not climb the mountain for them. It simply lifted a little of the burden from their hearts and lungs. Resting with a mask on, they felt warmth return to their fingers, clarity returned to their thoughts. It showed that accepting help, even from a metal cylinder, could be an act of wisdom, not weakness. In the years ahead, climbers would refine this practice, learning how to blend human will with quiet technological mercy high above the clouds. Chapter 48. In that shift, there is a wider lesson for us. Sometimes we believe that to be pure, we must carry everything alone, every load, every sorrow, every task. Yet the early Everest climbers discovered that using the gifts available to them did not diminish their courage. It allowed their courage to reach farther. Bottled oxygen, better tents, stronger ropes, these were not shortcuts but companions. In your own life, the supports you lean on, kindness from others, wise tools, moments of rest, do not make you less brave. They make it possible for your bravery to endure. Everest teaches that accepting help can be as noble as pressing on. Chapter 49. The story of 1922 did not end on that slope of broken snow. Its lessons flowed into the next major attempt in 1924, when men like George Mallory and Andrew Irvine would climb toward the summit by routes first traced in those earlier years. The maps, the camps, the understanding of seasons and snow, all were gifts passed forward. Yet even as later parties moved higher, the 1922 expedition retained its own solemn glow. It was the first to stand within sight of the summit, the first to feel its nearness and turn away, the first to carry both boldness and bereavement down the long trails toward home. Chapter 50. Think of that early Everest dream as a lantern passed from hand to hand. The 1921 reconnaissance lit the flame, exploring the mountain's contours. The 1922 expedition sheltered it in storms, carried it over glaciers and passes, and protected it even through avalanche and grief. They did not extinguish the dream when they turned back. They preserved it. They showed that the highest places on earth are not conquered in a single season, but courted over years with patience and respect. In their willingness to listen to the mountain, to learn, to suffer, and to stop, they revealed that the deepest purpose of such journeys is not only to stand on a summit, but to grow in soul along the way. And now, halfway through our night's journey, let us pause together. Breathe in gently, and breathe out more slowly still. We have walked with surveyors and monks, porters and climbers. We have watched tents shiver in midnight winds, seen a line of men lifted by snow, and felt the quiet decision to turn back with dignity instead of despair. High above, Everest remains unclaimed in this part of the story, her summit still untouched. Yet look how much has already been given. Maps drawn, routes found, lives risked, and lessons etched into memory like tracks across a glacier. Let your own life unfold in your mind, softly, like those maps. The passes you have crossed, the storms you have felt, the high places you approached and then chose to leave for another time. You do not have to judge yourself for what you did not finish. You do not have to measure your worth by the height of your achievements. Tonight there is no summit you must reach, no ridge you must conquer. You don't have to conquer summits tonight. You are here to rest. Feel the bed beneath you as a safe base camp. The blankets are your shelter. Your breath is your slow, steady rope line, connecting you to this moment. With every exhale, you descend a little from the harsh slopes of worry, down into the softer valleys of trust. If you wish, you can offer a quiet thank you to your own endurance, to the helpers in your life, to the unseen grace that has carried you through avalanches of emotion and steep days of effort. Gratitude is like a small lamp in a tent, not loud, not dazzling, but warm, steady, and enough. Stay here for a while wrapped in that gentle light. When you're ready, we will continue. Not to chase glory, but to drift deeper into peace, following the echo of those early footsteps on Everest until your own thoughts grow lighter than snow and sleep comes like a calm, embracing sky. Chapter 51. In the years after 1922, Everest's white pyramids still watch the sky in silence. The world moved on below, cities rebuilding after war, families growing, oceans crossed by ships and later by airplanes. Yet somewhere in quiet rooms, maps of Tibet and Nepal remained spread on tables. Fingers traced the route from Darjeeling to Rongbuk, from base camp to the North Col. The names of the porters and climbers were spoken in low, remembering tones. What they had done was not a failed attempt, but a beginning. They had shown that the high world could be approached, learned, and respected, that human courage could stretch almost to the ceiling of the earth. Chapter 52. Think of the porters who carried those loads: sacks of rice, bundles of rope, cylinders of oxygen, crates of fuel. Many of them had never seen oceans or western cities. Their world was valleys, terraces, monasteries, and sky. Yet their footsteps carried the expedition's beating heart. They climbed steep paths with extraordinary strength, moving like steady rivers of motion across rock and ice. Without fanfare, they turned the impossible into daily labour. They remind us that behind every visible achievement stands a hidden multitude: hands that lift, backs that bear, quiet souls who walk alongside us. Their contribution is a kind of prayer, spoken not with words, but with effort freely given. Chapter 53. Everest itself remained unchanged. Winds still scraped snow from its ridges, sending plumes trailing like white banners into the blue. Avalanches continued to thunder down unseen faces. Stars wheeled slowly over the summit, winter after winter. The mountain felt no urgency about summits or records. It simply stood, as it had for ages, a vast indifferent altar of rock, ice, and sky. Yet in human hearts, Everest became something tender and charged, a symbol of aspiration, of longing to reach higher ground. It reminds us that the world's great heights are both real and symbolic, cliffs of stone, and also inner climbs of courage, forgiveness, and transformation. Chapter 54. When we look back at 1922, it is easy to see only risk and danger, but there was beauty too. Quiet, luminous beauty threaded through the hardship. Sunrises painting the summits in gold. Evenings when the wind dropped and the world turned blue and still. The soft murmur of monks chanting in Rongbuk, their voices rising like incense through the thin air. The small, homely warmth of tea shared in a tent after a bitter day. These moments of gentleness scattered through the story are like small sparks in the dark. They remind us that even in difficult seasons, life still offers tiny, sacred comforts to those who pay attention. Chapter 55. The first attempt to climb Everest was also a first attempt to understand human limits at such altitudes. How does the mind behave when the air is so thin? How do muscles react when every step feels like lifting stone? They discovered that at great heights, emotions can become raw and simple. Joy, fear, gratitude, and fatigue stand closer to the surface. There is less room for pretense. This is true in our lives as well. When we face our own thin air, illness, grief, deep exhaustion, our hearts often reveal what matters most. At those heights, kindness, presence, and love shine more clearly than ambition. Chapter 56. The avalanche of 1922 echoes like a soft, distant drum through mountaineering history. It was the first major tragedy on Everest, but not the last. Yet even in its sorrow, there is an invitation. It asks us to remember that dreams must be held gently, never gripped so tightly that we forget the value of a single human life. Mountains will always be there. People will not. In your own life, there may be goals you chase, peaks you long to reach. Let the memory of those 7 porters remind you. Nothing you accomplish is worth neglecting the precious souls who walk beside you on the way. Chapter 57. Over time, the story of 1922 became a quieter chapter, overshadowed in popular memory by later attempts and famous names. Yet, like an early camp buried in snow, its foundations remain beneath everything that came after. The first path, the first tests, the first hard lessons. all were laid down by those unknown men. In our lives too, the beginnings often fade from view. The first small efforts, the unseen failures, the days when no one was watching. But those are the stones that hold up whatever comes later. The work you do in obscurity is never wasted. It forms the hidden base camp of your future strength. Chapter 58. Imagine standing at base camp at the end of that 1922 season. The tents are worn, some patched from storms. Supplies are lower. The men are thinner, their faces carved by cold and fatigue. Yet there is also a quiet fullness in the air. They have touched the edge of the possible and returned. The mountain did not yield its summit, but it offered something else. Knowledge, humility, a deeper sense of connection to the high places. They will go home changed. So will you, after every ascent and descent of your own days. Changed not just by what you reached, but by what you learned while reaching. Chapter 59. One of the gentlest truths we can draw from this story is that progress is often slow and shared. No one person climbed Everest in a single leap. The path was built over decades by many feet, many hands, many hearts. Some drew maps, some carried loads, some climbed high and came back, some did not return. In the same way, your own journey is supported by countless unseen influences. Ancestors, teachers, friends, strangers whose kindness you may barely remember. You're not an isolated climber. You're part of a living rope team of souls, stretching backwards and forwards through time. Chapter 60. Tonight, as we rest in this story, the first attempt on Everest becomes less a tale of failure and more a psalm of endurance. It sings of men who walked from jungles to glaciers, of porters whose strength lifted impossible loads, of monks who offered blessings at the world's edge, of snow that slid, lives that ended, and companions who mourned. It is not a triumphant anthem, it is a slow, steady hymn. A hymn to trying, to listening, to turning back when needed, and to carrying memory gently. In its quiet way, 1922 shows that even when our highest dreams remain unmet, our hearts can still grow taller. Pause here with me, on this gentle ledge in the night. Breathe in, and then breathe out, as softly as you can. We have walked through storms and avalanches, through maps and monasteries, through effort and grief. Yet notice how, in the telling, your body has slowly softened. Your breath has grown quieter. Your thoughts, perhaps, have become a little lighter, like snowfall settling after a wind. You do not need to hold the whole story. Let it hold you instead. Imagine that you're lying safe in a tent at base camp, lantern glowing faintly above you. Outside, Everest looms unseen in the darkness, but you are wrapped in warmth, in rest, in protection. The mountain is there, but it does not demand anything from you tonight. The same is true of your own challenges. They may still be waiting outside, tasks, worries, uncertainties, but for these few hours you do not have to climb them. You are allowed to be simply a sleeper, a soul at rest, breathing under a canopy of stars. With each exhale, let go just a little more. Release your grip on the day. Let your thoughts drift like prayer flags in a soft wind, moving but anchored. We will continue soon, not to rush toward the summit, but to wander gently through reflection about why we climb, why we dream, and how even unanswered dreams can fill our nights with a quiet, consoling light. Chapter 61. As time moved forward, more expeditions came. New climbers followed the same valleys, visited the same monastery, and stood in the same winds. They benefited from what 1922 had learned: when to travel, where to place camps, which slopes to fear. Yet in quiet moments, even these later climbers would look at the mountain and feel something unchanged, the sense of standing before a presence older and larger than themselves. The mountain didn't remember years, but people did. Each new party carried with it a thread of memory, woven from stories of those early steps. In this way, 1922 became less a single year and more a living echo. Chapter 62. Sometimes, when we think of Everest today, we imagine long lines of brightly dressed climbers, fixed ropes, and colourful tents scattered like petals across the snow. It is easy to forget that once there were no footprints at all on those upper slopes. The 1922 expedition belonged to that first fragile time, when every step above a certain height was an experiment. Each breath was a question. Each night spent high was a passage into the unknown. Their courage was not loud. It was patient, methodical, willing to go slowly. In a world that often prizes speed, their careful, deliberate progress feels like a blessing from a quieter age. Chapter 63. In the stillness of their tents, the climbers sometimes wrote in journals. They described the colour of dawn on the peaks, the behaviour of snow under boot, the fatigue that made lifting a pen feel heavy. They wrote about companions, the way a certain porter smiled, or how a fellow climber shared the last of his chocolate. These small notes, later read by others, became lanterns along the path of memory. They remind us that even in extreme places, it is often the smallest human gestures that shine brightest. A shared joke, a cup of tea, a hand steadying another on a slippery step. Chapter 64. Down in the valleys, families waited without telephones or fast news. Letters took weeks or months. For them, Everest was not an abstract idea. It was a distant white shape that had taken someone they loved far away. When news of the avalanche finally travelled back, slowly, through official reports and hushed conversations, it carried both sorrow and pride. Those at home learned that their sons, fathers, brothers and husbands had walked where no one had walked before. Grief and honour intertwined, like two colours in one prayer flag, fluttering together in the wind of remembrance. Chapter 65. The story of 1922 also invites us to look at our own inner landscapes. We all have mountains within us, places that feel difficult to approach, histories we fear to revisit, dreams we're unsure we can reach. Sometimes we make a first attempt and it does not end the way we hoped. We turn back, perhaps feeling that we have failed. Yet, like that early expedition, we may have mapped something important, the way our hearts respond to difficulty, the support we need, the slopes we must respect. Inner Everest climbs rarely end in neat victories. They end in deeper understanding and in a gentler way of walking with ourselves. Chapter 66. Consider too the difference between glory and meaning. The 1922 team did not gain the worldwide fame later climbers would receive. There were no photographs of them standing on the summit, no headlines celebrating a triumphant conquest. And yet their journey was full of meaning. They demonstrated courage, curiosity, respect for the unknown. Their story has guided and comforted others for a century. In your own life, the moments that truly matter may not be the ones others praise. They may be the evenings you chose kindness instead of anger, the quiet decisions to keep going when no one was watching. Those are your high camps of the soul. Chapter 67. High in the Himalayan night, stars shine with a clarity that can be startling. Without city lights, the sky becomes a vast, luminous river, flowing from horizon to horizon. Climbers at base camp would sometimes step outside their tents and simply look up. In that cold, dark silence, their own ambitions felt small compared to the sweep of the constellations. Yet this smallness was not crushing, it was comforting. To realize you are part of something immeasurably larger can untangle the tight knots of ego. Under that starlit dome, a person can feel both tiny and deeply held, like a single snowflake resting on an endless glacier. Chapter 68: Everest Rises, from the collision of continents, from forces older than language. Rock pushed upward, ice carving, winds sculpting, all over spans of time the human mind can barely grasp. Against this backdrop, the brief presence of an expedition seems like a passing shadow. And yet, for the individuals who walked there, those days were everything. This contrast is comforting. The universe is vast and our lives are brief, but the love, courage, and compassion we pour into each fleeting day have real weight. The mountain does not judge the length of a life, only the depth with which that life is lived. Chapter 69. Think of the monks at Rongbuk Monastery watching caravans come and go. They remained when the climbers left, rising before dawn to chant in cold halls, turning prayer wheels with fingers numbed by frost. Their lives flowed at a slower pace, shaped by seasons of snow and silence. The mountain was not a goal for them, but a neighbour, sometimes fierce, sometimes serene. Their prayers did not ask Everest to be conquered. They asked for compassion, for wisdom, for peace among beings. In this, they remind us that the highest journeys are not always upward. Sometimes they are inward, quietly descending into the heart. Chapter 70. The 1922 Everest Expedition is a tapestry woven from many threads: exploration and error, bravery and caution, ambition and reverence. At its centre lies a simple, shining truth. Human beings, small and fragile, are still drawn toward light, toward understanding, toward connection, toward the edges of what is known. They may stumble, they may turn back, they may lose much. Yet still, again and again, they lift their eyes to the horizon and wonder, what lies beyond? That question, when held gently, can be holy. It is not a demand for conquest, but an invitation to grow, to listen, and to walk a little farther than we did before. Let your breath follow the soft rise and fall of this story, in and out. We have climbed through history and into reflection, watching how one expedition can illuminate so many layers of the human spirit. As you lie here, you do not need to sort every lesson or hold every image. Let them drift through you like clouds passing over a high ridge, forming, dissolving, reshaping. Feel the support beneath your body, firm and kind. You're not balancing on a narrow ledge. You're resting in a wide, safe valley. The cold wind cannot reach you here. Only a gentle, quiet air moves around you, like a soft breeze through prayer flags. If any part of your day felt like an avalanche, let it settle now. You survived. You are here. You are breathing. That is enough. Chapter 71. As the decades passed, technology advanced. Radios, better weather forecasting, improved fabrics, and lighter equipment slowly transformed high-altitude climbing. What had been raw, uncertain, and experimental in 1922 became, over time, more planned, more predictable. Yet the essence of the experience remained the same. No matter how light the boots or warm the jackets, a human heart still beats inside every climber. Fear still rises at the edge of a crevasse, or still floods the chest at sunrise over an ocean of clouds. The mountain stays the mountain, and the soul, when exposed to such vastness, still falls silent in reverence. Chapter 72. When we read about early Everest attempts, it is tempting to judge their choices with modern eyes. We might think they should have waited, or they should have used more caution. But they were walking in a darkness we now see through. They did not have our accumulated wisdom. They were the ones accumulating it. In our own lives, we often treat our younger selves harshly, forgetting that they too walked without the knowledge we now hold. The story of 1922 invites us to be kinder to our own past attempts, to recognise that we did the best we could with the maps we had at the time. Chapter 73. There is a special silence that lives in snowfields high above the tree line. It is not empty silence. It is full of presence. Every crunch of a boot, every whisper of clothing against clothing, every breath seems louder there. The members of the 1922 expedition walked in that sacred hush. Some of them described feeling as if they were crossing the floor of a great white cathedral. The pillars were ridges, the ceiling was sky. The altar was the summit, unseen but deeply felt. In that quiet, many of them sensed something beyond language, a still, listening presence that met them step for step. Chapter 74. Mountains have always drawn pilgrims. Long before Everest was measured, people journeyed to high places to pray, to reflect, to be transformed. The 1922 expedition may not have called itself a pilgrimage in spiritual terms, but in many ways it was. The men left their ordinary lives, travelled far, faced hardship, confronted their own limits, and returned changed. Your own life contains such pilgrimages, seasons when you leave what is familiar, walk through difficulty, and emerge altered. You may not carry prayer beads or maps, but your heart knows the path. Each time you walk such a road, you bring back a little more wisdom to share. Chapter 75. High-altitude sun is both beautiful and severe. It bathes peaks in gold, yet burns unprotected skin and eyes. On clear days in 1922, the climbers shielded their faces, squinting across brilliant expanses of snow. Even through hardship, they could not help but marvel at the light, the way it turned ice crystals into scattered stars, the way it outlined distant ridges in silver. Light can be like that in our lives too, both comforting and confronting. When truth shines into hidden places, it may sting at first, but later we see how it reveals beauty we did not know was there. Chapter 76. At night, the temperature dropped quickly. Tents became small islands of warmth in seas of cold air. The men crawled into sleeping bags, sometimes still wearing damp socks or stiff boots, and listened to the sounds outside, flapping fabric, distant cracking ice, occasional murmurs from neighbouring tents. Inside, someone might tell a story or share a quiet laugh before silence settled. These fragile, fabric-walled shelters became temporary homes at the edge of the uninhabitable. In your own life, such tents may be moments of connection, a conversation, a hug, a shared meal. Fragile, brief shelters that keep the cold of a harsh world at bay. Chapter 77. When morning came, emerging from the sleeping bag could feel like a small act of bravery. Breath hung in the air as mist. Fingers fumbled with zippers and laces. Stoves sputtered to life, melting snow into water, transforming ice into tea. That first sip, steaming in tin cups, was a sacrament of warmth. It reminded the men that even in harsh conditions, comfort was still possible, one small mug at a time. In our own days, small comforts, a warm drink, a ray of sunlight through a window, a comforting word, can be holy too. They don't erase difficulty, but they witness quietly that gentleness still exists. Chapter 78. From far below, Everest may seem like a single, clean pyramid. Up close, it is a labyrinth. Ridges, gullies, icefalls and fractured glaciers. Routes snake through this maze, each choice leading to others. The 1922 climbers had to make decisions without the benefit of decades of prior knowledge. Some paths proved promising. Others ended in walls of rock or seas of crevasses. Life often feels like this. From a distance, an idea seems clear. Up close, it reveals complexity. We choose as well as we can, and sometimes we must turn back and try another way. This is not failure, it is navigation. Chapter 79. The wind on Everest can shape snow into strange sculpted forms, cornices that curl outward like white waves frozen in mid-break, dunes and ripples etched into slopes. The 1922 team walked among these transient sculptures, knowing that a single storm could erase their tracks and reshape the landscape entirely. This impermanence mirrors our own experience. The marks we leave may not endure in stone, but they can endure in hearts, in kindness remembered, in burdens lightened, in love given. Snow melts and footprints vanish. But the warmth of a gentle act can remain, quietly shaping someone's inner world long after the outer one has changed. Chapter 80. When we gather all these images, the cairn for 7 porters, the first oxygen tests, the storm-torn tents, the maps spread under lantern light, we see that the true summit of 1922 was not a point of rock at 8,148 meters. It was a change in human understanding, a recognition that we could approach such heights, but also that we must do so with reverence. It was an awakening to both power and fragility, to both ambition and mercy. In that awakening lies a quiet, enduring summit, a place in the heart where we realize that the highest goal is not dominance, but harmony with the world we move through. Let your breathing grow a little slower, like a river that has left the steepest part of its descent and is now flowing gently through a broad valley. We have wandered far with this expedition, seeing it from many angles. If your mind feels full, you can let some of the details slip away. You don't have to hold them all. Imagine them settling softly like snow on distant slopes, safe and quiet. What remains close to you is simple, that humans can aspire and still be humble, fail and still be noble, mourn and still be grateful. That you too can hold your own dreams lightly, honoring both your desire to climb and your need to rest. Feel the softness around you, the bed, the pillow, the blanket. These are your base camp. You have already come far enough for tonight. Chapter 81. In the wake of 1922, a subtle shift occurred in how people spoke of Everest. It was no longer a blank, distant outline on maps, but a place with stories attached. Names, camps, routes, weather patterns. The unknown had begun to gain a face. This happens in our inner lives as well. When we finally give words to a fear, a hope, or a grief, it becomes less formless, less overwhelming. We may not conquer it, but we can sit with it, walk beside it, and learn from it. Naming is a kind of mapping. A mapping is a first step toward understanding. Chapter 82. Some members of the expedition would later write books or give lectures, sharing their experiences with audiences who might never see a mountain higher than a nearby hill. In those rooms, lit by lamps instead of starlight, people listened, imagining jungles, monasteries, glaciers, and storms. These stories carried more than adventure. They carried an invitation to see the world as wider, more mysterious, more connected. Even if listeners never put on crampons or touch snow, something in them recognized the journey. For every outer climb there is an inner echo, a part of us that rises in sympathy when we hear of endurance and grace. Chapter 83. Early photographs from the expedition show small figures against vast backdrops, a line of porters crossing a snowfield, tents clustered beneath towering ice walls, men standing beside prayer flags. The contrast between human size and mountain scale is striking. Yet, within those small forms, entire universes of thought, memory, and feeling unfolded. Each person carried their own history, loves, fears, and questions up the mountain. This reminder is gentle. No matter how ordinary someone appears, they are as deep and complex as any landscape. To truly see another is to acknowledge the hidden Everest within them, rising behind their everyday expression. Chapter 84. On clear evenings, the shadow of Everest stretches far across the plateau, a vast triangular darkness cast over land and cloud. To stand within that shadow is to feel the presence of something massive, even if you cannot see the summit itself. Our lives also cast shadows, not ominous, but influential. The choices we make, the kindness we offer, the harm we avoid, all extend beyond our immediate sight. The 1922 expedition, though long past, still casts such a shadow, shaping the ethics and practices of modern climbing. In ways you may never fully know, your quiet goodness shapes the world around you too. Chapter 85. In many ways, the 1922 story is about listening. Listening to the mountain's weather, to the snow's behaviour, to the body's limits, to companions' concerns. When listening was ignored, danger grew. When listening was honoured, safety, or at least wisdom, increased. In your own world, you are surrounded by voices, people, responsibilities, devices, memories. Yet beneath all that noise there is a quieter guidance, the still voice of conscience, the gentle tug of intuition, the soft sense of what is kind. Learning to listen to that inner voice is like learning to read the sky above Everest. It can guide you away from avalanches, visible and invisible. Chapter 86. Among the most moving aspects of the expedition is the way men cared for one another. They carried frostbitten companions, shared scarce fuel and food, sat by the sick, and made decisions to turn back not just for themselves, but for the safety of the group. In a world that often praises solitary achievement, their example is a balm. It tells us that the highest form of strength is not standing alone on a summit, but walking together, adjusting our pace so no one is left behind. When you slow down to match the steps of someone struggling beside you, you climb a different kind of mountain, one made of compassion. Chapter 87. If you listen closely, you might imagine the sounds of that time. Yak bells clinking on rocky paths, ice axes striking into hard snow, low voices speaking across campfires, the distant roar of avalanches and the ceaseless whisper of wind. Now overlay those with your own life sounds, traffic, appliances, voices, devices. Beneath all of them, though, lies a deeper quiet, like the stillness at the heart of the mountains. You can touch that quiet even here, simply by noticing your breath, by allowing a pause between thoughts. That inner stillness is your own Everest plateau, wide, open, and peaceful. Chapter 88. When we imagine the men of 1922 descending for the last time, it is easy to see their bent shoulders and tired steps. But there must also have been moments of relief, the warmth of lower air, the sight of green slopes returning, the sound of water flowing freely instead of locked in ice. The world below welcomed them back with softer colours and kinder temperatures. In our own lives, we sometimes stay too long in harsh inner climates, pushing ourselves through icy expectations and stormy self-criticism. The story of their descent reminds us that it is all right to come down, to seek gentler ground where we can breathe more easily. Chapter 89. Over 100 years later, the first attempt on Everest can feel distant, almost dreamlike. The equipment looks old, the photographs faded, the language of their reports formal and restrained. Yet the feelings that pulse beneath those words are timeless. Fear, hope, wonder, grief, courage, love. These are the same forces moving in you now, this very night. The settings have changed, but the human heart has not. When you remember that, you can feel less alone. Across time and space, you share a kinship with everyone who has ever faced a steep path and chosen, somehow, to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Chapter 90. So the 1922 Everest Expedition stands in history like an early camp on a long route, not the highest point but essential to reaching it. It reminds us that first attempts matter, that the courage to begin is as important as the strength to finish. It teaches that progress often comes wrapped in imperfection, and that the costs of our dreams must be honoured tenderly. Above all, it whispers that the world is vast and our lives are brief, yet within this briefness we can touch something eternal, through love, through reverence, through a willingness to face great heights and still bow humbly before them. Now let us grow even quieter, as if the wind itself were calming down for the night. Your body knows how to rest. Your breath knows how to find its own rhythm, like slow footsteps on a gentle path. You do not need to control this. You can simply watch, kindly, as air moves in and out, steady as waves on a faraway shore. We have journeyed with climbers who risked much to touch the edge of the sky, yet here in your bed, your own journey tonight is not upward, but inward, towards safety, softness, and sleep. Let the mountains outside your life stay where they are. They will still be there tomorrow. For now, you are invited to descend all the way into rest. Chapter 91. As the story of 1922 settles in your mind, it becomes less about dates and more about a feeling. The feeling of standing at the border of the known world, of looking up at something vast and saying, I will approach, but I will also listen. That blend of bravery and humility is a quiet model for how to live. You can dare to love deeply, to create, to hope, while still honouring the boundaries of your body, your time, and your heart. Everest teaches that reverence does not weaken courage, it refines it, making it clearer, gentler, and more enduring. Chapter 92. In the thin air of the high camps, each breath was precious, each inhalation and exhalation a small negotiation with the sky. Down here at lower elevation, it is easy to take breathing for granted. Yet your breath is a miracle too, an unbroken thread connecting you to every moment you've ever lived. When you focus on it, even briefly, the rest of the world recedes. You come home to yourself. This simple act, repeated gently, can turn your own bedroom into a sanctuary, as holy in its way as any mountain shrine or monastery hall. Chapter 93. The men of 1922 could not see the future. They did not know that one day thousands of people would stand on Everest's summit, or that debates about commercialization and ethics would swirl around the mountain. They only knew the present. The crunch of snow, the ache in their legs, the hope in their chests. In the same way, you cannot see all that your choices now will shape in years to come. You stand where they stood, in the narrow living moment between past and future. Here, in this breath, You are free to choose kindness, to release tension, to allow rest. Chapter 94. Think of the lanterns they carried in their tents, small flames held inside glass, trembling occasionally when the wind shook the canvas. Those flames pushed back darkness just enough to see hands, faces, maps. Tonight, your own inner light is like that. Not a blazing sun, but a gentle glow. It may be tired from the day's storms, but it is still there, still steady. You feed it with tenderness, with forgiveness, with the decision to treat yourself softly. Your worth is not measured by how brightly you burn, but by the simple truth that you are here, a light at all, sharing warmth with the world. Chapter 95. For the porters who never returned, the mountain became a final home. Their names may not be written on plaques, but their story lives on in every person who pauses to think of them. You carry them now in your awareness. That too is a kind of prayer. When you remember those who have gone before you, in your family, in your community, in the wider world, you extend a bridge of love across time. Memory becomes an act of devotion, and gratitude a way of keeping their light alive. In this, the boundary between earth and sky, between then and now, grows thin. Chapter 96. As this night deepens, imagine Everest under stars, winds calmer, slopes gleaming faintly in moonlight, tents at base camp dark and still. Somewhere, perhaps, a single yak bell chimes as an animal shifts in its sleep. The great mountain stands, but it does not strain. It simply is. You are allowed to be like that now, not striving, not planning, just existing. There is a sacredness in simple being, in letting yourself rest without needing to earn it. You have done enough for today. You are enough, even in stillness, especially in stillness. Chapter 97. In many traditions, mountains symbolize the meeting place of earth and heaven, the point where the human touches the divine. Everest, highest of them all, carries that symbolism strongly. Yet tonight the meeting place is not a distant summit. It is right where you are, in your chest where breath moves, in your mind where thoughts slowly soften, in your heart where a quiet longing for peace stirs. This room, this bed, this moment is your holy ground. You do not have to climb to find grace. Grace is already here, settling over you like a warm, invisible blanket. Chapter 98. As sleep draws nearer, your thoughts may drift, wandering, like climbers along a snowfield. Let them wander. You do not need to follow everyone. Imagine them as distant expeditions traveling through your inner landscape, while you remain at base camp, safe, anchored, and held. Worries may appear like storm clouds on the horizon, but you can watch them without entering the storm. You are learning, as the 1922 team did, when to move and when to be still, when to push on and when to say, "For now, I rest." This wisdom is as high and precious as any summit. Chapter 19. Soon, your body will slip into the deeper valleys of sleep, where the mind's constant climbing finally pauses. In those quiet places, your brain will mend and sort, your muscles will heal, your spirit will be gently washed in dreams. Perhaps you will visit mountains there, silent slopes under aurora-lit skies, glaciers glowing softly in starlight. Or perhaps your dreams will be simple, a familiar room, a kind face, a warm cup in your hands. Whatever they are, let them come. Trust that your inner world, like those early climbers, knows how to find its way through darkness toward dawn. Chapter 100. And so, our night's journey with the first attempt on Everest draws to a close. We have watched men move from jungles to glaciers, from hope to heartbreak, from ambition to humility. We have honoured porters whose names we may never know, and monks whose prayers rose into the same sky the climbers walked beneath. We have seen that even when a summit remains unreached, the path taken can still be rich with meaning, courage, and grace. In this story, as in your life, survival is its own sacred victory. Each day you continue, each night you seek rest. You are quietly conquering heights within you that no one else can see. Now, let us gently close this chapter and settle fully into rest. You've walked far above with the Himalayas' great mountain spirit tonight, not in your body, but in your imagination, your empathy, your quiet heart. You have stood beside early climbers in frozen dawns, listened to the hush of snow, and felt the soft weight of sacrifice. You have remembered that even in a world of struggle, there are still candles of courage and rivers of kindness flowing through every valley. As you lie here now, feel gratitude wrap around you like a warm down quilt. Gratitude for your breath, for your body that has carried you through another day, for every person who has helped you along your own steep paths. Even in your rest, you have already conquered great peaks in the journey of life. Peaks of endurance, of resilience, of quietly choosing to keep going. You do not need to do anything more tonight. No summit waits. No storm demands your attention. There is only this gentle darkness, this steady breath, this soft invitation to let go. If tonight's journey brought peace to your spirit, remember, when you're awake and ready, to like this video, to subscribe, and to share which great survival story you would love to dream through next. And when another evening comes and your heart longs again for quiet courage and high, snowy horizons, you can return here or click the next story on your screen and continue your endurance path to the summit. For now, let all images fade. Let the mountain disappear into cloud, the tents fold away, the ropes coil, the lanterns dim. There is only you, the darkness, and a presence that holds you more surely than any rope. May peace guard your dreams until morning, and may grace be the first light to greet you when you wake. Good night,